We're back here at Cityline this morning, and I've got just a wonderful couple of guests here joining me in the studio. Deirdre Patterson, who is an artist with Arts at the Armory. Welcome, Deirdre.
Thank you for having me.
Christina Vega as well. You are also an artist with Arts at the Armory. Thank you for being here, Christina.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you both for braving the winter weather and getting here to talk about a wonderful event and work that we've got to look forward to in the coming weeks and months. So, Deirdre, let's start with you. Tell me about your artistic work. What mediums do you work in as an artist?
Yeah, so I'm an abstract artist, and I mainly work on canvas. I do abstract compositions, mainly with acrylic paint. I've also recently ventured into doing some wood sculptures that I'm really excited about. I don't know how much I'll actually have at Art at the Armory next weekend, but yeah, so it's mostly paintings and wood sculptures.
That's wonderful. And how about you, Christina? What mediums do you work in?
I'm a poet and a publisher, and so primarily I make books here in the Puget Sound with local authors and a team of local creatives.
That's wonderful. Very different mediums, as I'm sure all of the artists participating in Art at the Armory are. Wonderful. So let's go to you, Christina. How long have you been doing art and been an artist, and what got you started?
I would say I've been writing for most of my life, and I've been making books for about 6 years. And honestly, what got me started was a really enthusiastic and subversive middle school English teacher who introduced me to poetry that changed my life, poetry that was by people that looked and lived like me, which was pretty uncommon in our school district. So that's how I got started.
That's great. I love to hear. I have teachers in my family. I love to hear stories of teachers that had an impact and went on to inspire young people to do what they're doing today. So that's a wonderful example of that. What about you, Deirdre? How long have you been an artist?
Yeah, so I'd like to think that I've been a lifelong artist and creative, and I can totally relate to having that teacher kind of like nurture and invest in that spirit in me. When I was younger, I was convinced I was going to be a fashion designer when I was in elementary school, and I actually still have like a portfolio of a lot of my designs from back then. And I had a teacher whose twin sister taught fashion design at FITM in Seattle. And so like she let me and my best friend at the time, who's also interested in it, have like a full day at FITM with her sister instead of going to school. And so I've always kind of experimented through various different kinds of like artistic mediums and expression, whether that was like doodling or, like I said, the fashion design or clothing. But about almost 3 years ago now, basically at the start of the pandemic, once we shifted to working from home, I just found that I had so much more bandwidth to be able to create. And I had paint and I had canvases. And so I just started like painting consistently really only like 2.5 years ago, basically. And then I started to share my work on like my Instagram, and people started to hit me up asking me like, where can I buy this? And I'm like, I had no like intentions or expectations that people would be so interested in. So it's really just taken off from there over the last like 2.5 years. But I just feel like I've always been a creative and an artist.
That's great. You mentioned the last couple of years, doing more art and finding more inspiration. You hear that so often with artists. I mean, unfortunately, but also kind of fortunately for the last couple of years, there was so much happening in the world and so much inspiration to draw from. And, so many beautiful and impactful pieces of art really did come out of the last couple of years. So that's wonderful to hear. And also the wonders of social media. Great to hear that whether intentionally or not, it took off because of your social media account. So that's great. Christina, coming back to Arts at the Armory, tell me something that visitors might learn while visiting your space specifically, or any of the spaces at the event.
Sure. I think one thing that folks will learn at our booth is that how we make our books matters just as much to us as the book that we're producing. And what I mean is that we try to work with groups of creators who are typically gatekept out of the publishing and bookselling fields. And so that looks like a lot of folks from historically marginalized groups. And so we try to not just work with artists from historically marginalized groups, and that includes designers and editors and printers and authors, but we try to train folks from those same historically marginalized groups as well, so that we can change the numbers and change statistics about whose stories and whose work we're seeing in books and whose we aren't, because that's intentional and that matters to us. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Not just being there to enjoy the art, but actually learn the story behind it and learn some lessons, like you said.
Absolutely.
That's important.
Yeah.
What about, I'm going to keep with you, Christina. What can visitors expect to see at your booth, and what can they expect to do in terms of interaction or hands-on activities?
Sure. We'll have books and some prints at the booth, all by local creators. And we'll have folks from our team just chatting with other people. And one of the things that I love about being at these events is that I know for me, I love getting a chance to talk to artists like Deirdre and just sort of expanding our practice and working with folks. So anytime folks come up, we love to hear about what they're making and what their creative outlets are, and just going from there.
That's great. How about you, Deirdre? How about at your booth? Any interactive activities or things they can expect to see and do?
Yeah, so I won't have any like interactive activities, but obviously because I'll be there displaying my work, it'll be a great opportunity for people who are not familiar with my work to see it for the very first time, or even some folks. I did do art at the Armory last year, so I'm also excited to see, some familiar faces and folks that maybe saw my work last year, and especially since I am still relatively new in this artistic endeavor. For those people who are coming back this year, I would expect that they could see the progression of my work. And so that's really exciting for me to be able to continue to show my work here, especially in Tacoma. And I think similar to like what Christina was saying, I just think overall it'll be a great opportunity for all of the artists who are involved and the people who are coming to get that exposure to creators and makers here in Tacoma that they may not have heard of before. And also for us all as creators to be able to interact and learn more about each other. And then one other thing I will say too, that people will learn about my what I'm doing also in addition to my art. I'll be talking to people also about another project that I'm working on that's creative called Concept that I've created with my partner. And we are aiming to create immersive and intentional experiences here in Tacoma for creatives by creatives. And so we had our very first event this year, and it was a multidisciplinary artist panel here in Tacoma, and we're looking forward to doing some more programming in the spring around visual arts. And so I'll be really excited to talk to people who come to my booth about that project as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. Christina, what about you? Anything, since Deirdre mentioned what she's looking forward to in 2023, how about you? Do you have any projects coming up that you'll either be showcasing at Arts at the Armory or looking ahead to in 2023?
We have some really exciting projects that are coming up in 2023. We have a haiku graphic novel we're working on. We're making a board game that's associated with one of our books, The Elephant in the Room. And also we just published a book called Unearthing Our Roots by Krista Perez, who is the founder of the Tacoma Women of Color Collective. And I'm really just excited to get that book into people's hands. It's small, it fits in your jacket, and we have this idea that, it's about community building in communities of color and the kind of internal and external work that goes into that. And we love the idea of this being something, like pamphlets and zines and subversive literature that, you give somebody hand to hand that travels from person to person and that can impact their lives. So I'm really excited to just have this little book as an offering to our community and get it out into the world. Let it do its magic.
Absolutely. Today's show has just been so wonderful to hear from you as artists, but the theme I'm catching on to is just the community building, right? We heard from Councilmember Rumbaugh and the Puget Sound Revels, and then you here today. I'm sensing this theme. It's just such a wonderful time of year right now for community building and community empowerment. So I'm just thrilled to hear that there'll be, obviously the arts are such an important and foundational part of our community building. That's great. And I'm sure, our viewers that are watching and folks that attend the Arts at the Armory will hopefully see this segment and come to you and visit you at your booth and ask all sorts of questions about the wonderful things going on. So, zooming out a little bit, just you said, Deirdre, you've participated in Arts in the Armory before, and have you, Christina, participated before?
I did. I got to attend the first one that Deirdre was at as well.
So Deirdre, what's the most rewarding part about participating in this event, Arts at the Armory?
I think the things that's like the greatest about participating in events like this, again, like I said, is being able to expose your art to a large group of people. I'll say here in Tacoma, the creative and art scene is still growing, and there aren't always that many opportunities to get artists under one roof, under the guise and for the exclusive intent and purpose of art and creating. And so for me, just being in that room with that energy with other artists and creatives is really exciting. And, based on my experience at the first one last year, the community is really excited to be able to also have stuff like that to go, whether they want to like purchase art or they just want something to do with their family that weekend. It's just a really good time for the community to come out, be together, and, see some awesome art and connect with some new people. So I'd say that's what I find to be the most rewarding about the experience with art at the Armory. And then also too, I'd say the art staff at the city have done a really awesome job putting this event together, because there are other opportunities for creatives and makers to showcase their work and participate in markets, but typically you have to pay an entry fee. So this is also a really awesome opportunity that is a much lower barrier to entry for artists to be able to showcase their work. And so for me, that's also really awesome.
Absolutely. I love working with our colleagues over in the city's Arts and Cultural Vitality Department. They're a wonderful group. And how about you, Christina, the most rewarding part of being a part of this wonderful event?
I think Deirdre said it really well. I think Arts at the Armory is a great opportunity to have so many folks under one roof, because I think that Tacoma has a really robust, creative culture of creativity, but there's so many pockets of creativity, and it gets really hard to go to all the events you want, see the artists you want to, and support them. And as an artist, to have these venues, just like Deirdre was saying, that aren't charging an arm and a leg, and as a small business owner, that's really important. Those things add up. So I really appreciate the opportunity to have a huge audience, like have our city come out to a city building and see such a wide breadth of artists and artistry, and just celebrate that and support that without there being a lot of barriers to entry, whether you're attending to do holiday shopping or to just see your favorite artists, or if you're behind a booth. So I really like that aspect.
That's wonderful. Can't wait to visit you both at your booth and all of the other fabulous artists, and a season of giving and community building and celebration. What a wonderful event, Arts at the Armory. Thank you both for being here today on Cityline.
Thank you.
And we will continue to our theme of art and community building right after the break from Cityline.